Imagine being locked inside a floating steel box with 5,000 strangers. No windows, no fresh air, no privacy. You sleep in a bed the size of a coffin, 18 inches from the person above you. You work 18 hours a day in 140-degree heat. You haven't seen your family in 7 months, and you won't for another 2. Welcome to life aboard a United States Navy aircraft carrier, the most expensive warship ever built, and one of the worst places on Earth to live. This is what the recruitment ads don't show you. Let's start with the ship itself. A Nimitz-class aircraft carrier is 1,092 feet long. That's longer than the Empire State Building is tall. It displaces over 100,000 tons of water. It carries roughly 5,000 sailors and Marines, between 44 and 90 aircraft, 2 nuclear reactors, and enough weapons to level a small country. From the outside, it looks like the ultimate symbol of American power. From the inside, it feels like a floating prison with a flight deck. The ship has over 4,000 compartments spread across 25 decks. If you're new on board, you will get lost. Everyone gets lost. Some sailors spend their first 2 weeks just trying to find their way from their rack to their workstation without ending up in the wrong part of the ship. The hallways, the Navy calls them passageways, are narrow, low-ceilinged, and painted the same shade of gray everywhere. There are no windows below the flight deck level. Most sailors go weeks without seeing natural sunlight. You wake up under fluorescent lights. You work under fluorescent lights. You eat under fluorescent lights. You go to sleep under fluorescent lights. After a while, you forget what the sun looks like. Now, let's talk about where you sleep, because calling it sleeping is generous. Enlisted sailors sleep in berthing compartments. A berthing is a room crammed with anywhere from 30 to 200 sailors, stacked in racks 3 high. A rack is your bed. It's 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, and roughly 18 inches of vertical space between you and the rack above you. You cannot sit up in your rack. You roll in, you roll out. Under your mattress, and I use that word loosely, is a small storage pan. That's it. That's all the personal space you get on a $13 billion warship. A coffin-sized bed and a metal box underneath it for your entire life's belongings. And here's the fun part. Because the ship operates around the clock, racks are shared. It's called hot racking. When you get off your 12-hour shift, you climb into a bed that someone else just climbed out of. The sheets are still warm, sometimes still damp. You don't complain because there's nothing to complain to. This is just how it works. The noise never stops. The ship's machinery hums 24 hours a day. The catapults fire above your head. And if your berthing is near the flight deck, every launch sounds like a car crash directly above you. Every single launch, day and night, for 9 months straight. Sleep studies on aircraft carriers have found that the average sailor gets about 5 to 6 hours of broken sleep per day. Not per night, per day. Because there is no night. The ship doesn't care what time zone you're in. Let's talk about food. Because honestly, it's one of the few things that keeps morale from completely collapsing. An aircraft carrier serves roughly 17,000 meals a day. The ship has 4 galleys. That's Navy for kitchen, and they operate 24/7. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and mid-rats. Midnight rations for the crew coming off the late shift. The food is fine. It's mass-produced cafeteria food for 5,000 people, so don't expect Gordon Ramsay. Breakfast is usually eggs, bacon, toast, cereal. Lunch and dinner rotate through a cycle. Burgers, pasta, chicken, rice, the occasional steak on Sundays. The Navy calls Sunday dinner surf and turf, steak and shrimp. It's the highlight of the week. Sailors literally count the days until Sunday dinner. The coffee is available everywhere, all the time. And it is terrible. But you drink it anyway because you're running on 5 hours of sleep and you have a 16-hour shift ahead of you. Now, the work. This is where it gets serious. The flight deck of an aircraft carrier is considered the most dangerous workplace in the world. That's not an exaggeration. It's an official designation. The Navy's own safety data backs it up. You have jets landing at 150 miles per hour, 20 feet from where people are standing. You have catapults generating enough steam pressure to launch a pickup truck a mile. You have jet exhaust hot enough to melt asphalt. You have spinning propellers, live weapons being moved by hand, jet fuel being pumped through hoses across a deck covered in oil and salt water. And everyone on that deck is between 18 and 22 years old. Flight deck crew work in shifts that last 12 to 18 hours. During high-tempo operations, they might work 20 hours straight. They wear colored jerseys that indicate their job. Purple shirts handle fuel. Red shirts handle weapons. Yellow shirts direct aircraft. Green shirts maintain the catapults and arresting gear. Brown shirts are plane captains, the crew members assigned to specific aircraft. Below deck, it's a different kind of brutal. Engineers work in the reactor rooms where temperatures can reach 140 degrees Fahrenheit. They monitor the 2 nuclear reactors that power the ship, reactors that will run for over 20 years without refueling. The heat is constant. The noise is deafening, and the stakes are nuclear. Mechanics in the hangar bay work on jets in a space that's essentially an underground parking garage. If that parking garage was rocking back and forth on 30-foot swells while you tried to repair a $40 million jet engine with hand tools. So, what do you do when you're not working? Not much. Free time on a carrier is measured in minutes, not hours. But when you get it, your options are limited. There's a gym, usually packed. There's a library, surprisingly popular. There are TVs in some common areas showing movies on a loop, the same movies, for months. Some ships have a small store called the ship's store, where you can buy snacks, toiletries, and the occasional Navy-branded hoodie. There are steel beach picnics on rare, calm days. The crew gets to go up to the flight deck, set up grills, and pretend they're at a barbecue. For a few hours, it almost feels normal. Email exists, but it's monitored, slow, and limited. Phone calls home are rare. Satellite phone time is rationed and expensive. You might get 15 minutes a week if you're lucky. Social media is essentially impossible. You are, for all practical purposes, cut off from the world. And that's where things get dark. Mental health on aircraft carriers is a growing crisis that the Navy is only beginning to acknowledge. In 2022, the Navy reported its highest number of active duty suicides in years. Carrier deployments are a known risk factor. Think about it. You're 20 years old. You're trapped in a metal box with 5,000 people, but you feel completely alone. You can't talk to your girlfriend. You can't see your kid. You missed your mom's birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and your own anniversary. Your back hurts from your rack. Your ears ring from the flight deck. You haven't slept properly in months, and you have 93 days left on deployment. The Navy has counselors on board, but the stigma is real. Asking for help is seen as weakness. In a culture built on toughness and mission readiness, admitting you're struggling can feel like career suicide. Some ships have started putting mental health check-ins into the routine, but it's slow progress. So after all of this, the coffin beds, the terrible sleep, the dangerous work, the isolation, the mental strain, how much do these sailors actually get paid? An E3, which is the rank of most junior sailors on their first deployment, earns a base pay of roughly $26,000 a year. That's about $12.50 an hour, if they worked a standard 40-hour week. But they don't work 40 hours. They work 80 to 100 hours a week, which brings their effective hourly rate down to roughly $5 to $6 an hour, less than minimum wage, on the most powerful warship ever built. Officers earn more, obviously. A junior officer, an O2 or O3, might make $60,000 to $80,000 a year with allowances. A senior pilot might clear $120,000. The captain of the ship earns around $200,000. But even for the officers, the math doesn't add up when you factor in the hours, the danger, and the time away from family. So why do they do it? I asked that question to a dozen veterans while researching this video, and the answer was almost always the same. It wasn't the pay. It wasn't the patriotism, at least not in the flag-waving way you'd think. It wasn't the adventure. It was the people next to them. The bonds you form on a carrier deployment are unlike anything in civilian life. You suffer together. You barely sleep together. You eat the same bad food, breathe the same recycled air, and count the same days until you go home. That shared misery creates something that most people will never experience. Every single veteran I spoke to said the same thing. Worst living conditions of my life. Best people I ever met. If this video made you see aircraft carriers differently, subscribe. Next week, we're looking at the Gerald R. Ford, the most expensive warship ever built, and the billion-dollar problems the Navy doesn't want you to know about. I'll see you then.